Why do we have war, and what does men have to do with it? So one time in class, I told my friend, kasi nabasa ko yung 48 Powers of Law, and then sabi ko sa friend ko, to have peace is to have war. And narinig ako ng teacher ko, so lumingon siya, sabi niya, no. And I had to beg my teacher. I was like, no, 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 please, it's not me, I didn't say that. And then she went to this whole explanation as to why war is a man's game, that paradox was basically made to justify the reason for war. I've been watching Game of Thrones recently, and there was this one episode about war. And 70% of Game of Thrones is basically war. I wondered, where are the women representation? It made me think about what my teacher said, how war is a man's game, and it led me to question, do men and women handle conflict differently, psychologically, and biologically? Or for the good of the heart lang ang babae? I read this one research paper back to back to answer these questions. Is war a man's game? Is war inevitable? Are men inherently violent? Am I the most amazing girl in the world? We'll talk about it. It talks about 3 hypotheses, and it led to only one conclusion. But there's another paper that they cited that also made a big point. The first point is that men are physically fit to be in war. Second is that men have nothing to lose. That's kind of interesting kasi I went into this whole subreddit of communism and capitalism. And kapag nakapunta ka na doon, you will understand, like if you know, you know. But the people there are so intellectual. But there was this one term na paulit-ulit nilang binabanggit, which is called cannon fodder. And so I searched what that meant. And cannon fodder is basically cannon food or enemy food. That these men are sent to war with the little care if mamatay man sila. But women, on the other hand, they are super important. They're crucial to society because they're the only people who can reproduce, get pregnant, make a baby.
Okay, mom.
I did your baby!
Their third point is that men stay within their groups, while women have to move to other groups and, to be more specific, nearer to their husband's family. It gives the men more opportunity to get to know the people that they're with, to protect their kinship. I have terrible homesickness. I cannot be away from my family for days. It's nice to have sleepovers, but maybe it's because I've never been allowed to have sleepovers, kaya nasanay na rin ako na I'm with my family all the time. But yeah, that's sad. But with all these 3 hypotheses that they made, it led to one conclusion. Yes, they are factors, but they are not the reason as to why war happens. The reason why warfare happens is according to the Darwinian competition. Historically, men compete with men for the chance of a higher reproductive success, while women compete with women for that same reason. These men are so adamant about their reproductive success, this urge and instinct spills out to what we know now as warfare. They're like this. I'm gonna punch the next person that doesn't give me a baby. That's not what they said. I just said that para may example. Anyway. And when they do win in war, it translates to, I won war. War gives me resources and money. I give wife resources and money. Wife happy. Wife, me. And
Right, wife. Wife good. Wife fight back. Kill wife. Wife gone.
wife give me baby. Baby give me extensive legacy, which is the pride and joy of a man. So is the reason for patriarchy all narrowed down because men just wanted to get cracked? Not necessarily, because this reproductive pursuit drove what we know patriarchy is to be now. Prehistoric people had complementary roles. They understood what their bodies were capable of doing. Women were like, I give baby and it takes a lot of my energy and time, and so I think I'm gonna stick with taking care of the children, of the family, and just gathering resources. While men were like, I think I can take more physically demanding jobs, so I'm gonna go hunt and I'm gonna go travel, but I'll come back, but you do your job and I'll do my job. They were relative, basically. It was when these men started to form groups that they formed what we call is a coalition psychology. But to make it short, because I don't think I can say that for the whole entire time, I'm gonna call it the boys club psychology, or boys club for short. And the Darwinian competition is the reason why men form groups in the first place, why men fight against other men. The boys club psychology naman, on the other hand, is when men naturally form a bond or cooperation to commit violence against outsiders to protect their kinship. I would say patriarchy wasn't an accident. It was an evolution. That these men understood their strength and their power, and they decided to leverage or monopolize the resources that society depended on. And that evolved to something more detrimental. I would say detrimental is a big word, but we know patriarchy is definitely different from what it was back then. I would say patriarchy is a biological evolution that became more than sex, became about power, economics, money, and territorial. And you know what that sounds like? Very similar imperialism. Because imperialism is just basically this super big plan of patriarchy, of warfare. And remember the boys club psychology we talked about earlier? Don't be surprised, but that's imperialistic in behavior. Patriarchy is male supremacy. Imperialism is absolute domination or power over a nation. So you can see the similarities between patriarchy and imperialism. And what if I told you that war just doesn't happen on battlefields, but it's much closer to home than we thought? Because our young boys, or our boyfriends, our male friends, they technically practice warfare with their friends. Habang binabasa ko lahat ng researches and studies, I wondered kung may relation ba ang boys club sa boys locker room conversations. If you don't know what a boys locker room conversation is, then we saved an angel. But if you're a woman, then you've probably been a victim. Or you just know about it, or do you engage in it? Basically, it's a super secret pact between men or boys to talk about whenever, whatever, whoever they want. And when they banter, they test among themselves kung sino ang alpha male sa kanilang lahat. Kung sino ba ang most reliable, who can take the least to the most amount of damage from the insults. Joke daw ang insults. And who amongst them are they more likely to associate themselves with? Personally, oh my gosh, put me in jail. Like, I do banter. It's just, I can never banter to the extent na puro insults. Like, walang prenong paglalait. Like, I can't. I think I'm too much of an empath. I think the moment that I feel like I'm being too mean, magsosorry na ako. It's just not my kind of humor. So with that boys club, it creates this mindset na tropa ko versus tropa mo, or in an imperialistic view, my country versus your country. Are men inherently violent? No, men are not inherently violent for the reason that they like fighting or solving their problems with their fists or however they solve it. Like, I don't understand. I'm not a man. But I would say that it's because they're hypersensitive to conforming. This violence gene is explained more by the young male syndrome. Basically, it means that young males have more tendencies to engage in physical risking tasks because it related to a man's reproductive success, which historically is all or nothing. It's again that pursuit of power and title and status. Pride. Parang pride na rin, kumbaga. So, what now? Our boys are practicing a reflection of warfare instinctively with their other male friends. And our patriarchal led leaders are always finding something to fight about. Is there anything practical we can do? Parang mamamatay na lang ba tayong ganitong walang pag-asa sa mundo? Kasi parang away-away na lang eh. So there's a line between Alice and the Queen where the Queen says, "It takes all the running you can do to be in the same place." Basically, this is a scientific theory in which if the predator is fast, then the prey must be faster. And if the prey is fast, the predator must be faster. This is called the Red Queen theory. It explains how, as a society, we keep going through a cycle of conflict because in order to survive, we must adapt. The one example was that if Group A is content with everything and they don't want to go fight, Group B will be like, that's why it's hard to think that war and imperialism will ever end because it's so deeply rooted, and hence why the paradox to have peace is to have war, which is Darwinian. Because if there's anything I learned in philosophy class is to not be afraid to question, be skeptical, or at least find a solution. I don't know, medyo pabibo ako sa philo class namin kasi ang dami kong tanong, which I think my professor would have been so proud. I was a good student, guys. Aral ng mabuti. Humans are rational beings and have the ability to reason. And we can theoretically, I would say, stop war if we vote the right people. Because reason tries to change the paradox from to have peace is to have war to have peace is to have transparency. With that, survival no longer means to fight against each other, but to form a union in where we can work things out together. And we've seen this happen before. We have the United Nations as proof. And it was specifically built for countries to work alongside each other, which point is the Red Queen theory explains why we go through the cycle in the first place. But as humans, we have the unique ability to reason. We got to a point where we've done it. We did it once, we can do it again. Now, I never really answered the first question, is man a war's game? With everything we talked about, do you think war is a man's game? Because I personally think that okay, bye!